Mais là, je te laisse cet été parce que ma tante elle est achetée. C'est chaud. Je me souviens quand, un mois après qu'ils ont développé c'est des digues qu'ils ont fait. C'est quelque chose qui a fait cette affaire. OK. C'est quelque chose.
Et j'ai été réchauffé ici, Pierre? Et j'ai été réchauffé ici, Pierre?
Oui, c'est ça.
OK.
On va faire la manier, puis je t'en ai installé.
By the way, Dave, that oil case, the old man was a federal judge, I think.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Like you really, you know, everyone knows about family dysfunction. You really like to know what's going on.
But he was every day he went with his Sunday work.
Is he retired?
No, I believe he's still on the
Really?
bench. I guess he's got some time off. Still tries. I mean, I don't know what they were talking. What was the conversation? Every day he was with his son.
Well, that sounds a useful setup.
I mean, I'd imagine he was paid for. Hey, we got an echo. We got a stereo karaoke.
Non, je sais pas quoi.
Seconds? 30 secondes?
30 seconds, half a minute.
Le modérateur, moi je suis tout au bout. Alors Jagmeet va être à côté de toi, ensuite 2, puis 3, moi c'est 3.
Parfait.
OK. Heads up.
Bonjour and welcome to the National Press Theatre. This morning with us, Jagmeet Singh, to make an important announcement on Pharmacare. We'll start with some opening statements and then we'll follow with a question period. Please keep in mind that we'll be using microphones for the questions. Philippe will be passing them around. Mr. Singh.
Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup d'être ici. We've got a really difficult situation for a lot of Canadians. Millions of Canadians can't afford the medication that they desperately need. And they're forced to make an impossible choice between paying for their necessities like their rent or buying life-saving medication. And people should not be forced to make this type of difficult and horrible decision. We know that 1 in 5 Canadians do not take the medication they need simply because they can't afford it. Many Canadians are cutting their pills in half, and many Canadians end up in the emergency room for completely avoidable illnesses that they could not treat, they could not maintain or manage because they couldn't afford the medication. And we are the only industrialized country in the world that has a universal healthcare system that doesn't also cover medication. Now, for the past 23 years, the Liberals have promised to bring in Pharmacare, but have failed to do so. Even as recently as 2019, the Prime Minister Trudeau also promised to bring in Pharmacare and, again, hasn't shown that as a priority. Instead, his inaction has shown that he'd rather prioritize powerful pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies over families that cannot afford their medication. And we know that Conservatives can't be trusted when it comes to healthcare. It was Harper who put forward a plan to cut healthcare funding that was going to hurt provinces, and it was Prime Minister Trudeau who implemented those cuts that were planned by Harper. So New Democrats are laying a course forward. Today, we are really proud to announce a concrete step forward to realizing national universal pharmacare for all. So we're proposing to bring forward a bill. That bill will be tabled today. And it will follow the same principles as the Canada Health Act, the same principles that will follow into the Canada Pharmacare Act. These principles lay out a path for having a universal pharmacare system that is universal, that is comprehensive, accessible, portable, and publicly administered. These are the values that are already laid out in the Canada Health Act. Our law, the bill that we're proposing, would lay out that framework, would lay out the drug agency. This is so achievable. And in a country as wealthy as ours, I met with a senior who was a president of a seniors association. And she told me, when I met her in Vancouver, how important it was for her and for her members to have medication coverage. Many seniors are struggling with the cost of medication. And she said to me that she wanted to see Pharmacare before she died, before her members died. And for her, it's urgent. It's not something that she can wait for. It's not something that the Canadians that I talked about, the 1 in 5 who can't afford medication, it's not something they can afford to wait for. And the Liberals have failed them for so long, and today we're proposing a real step forward that will actually help realize universal pharmacare. This bill will lay out that framework, will lay out that first step. It's something that was called for by the Hoskins report that was reported, or the report that was commissioned by the Liberal government itself. And this is one of the concrete steps we're taking today. Donc, on est tellement fiers aujourd'hui de proposer une solution. On sait que on a besoin d'une assurance médicaments universelle. Et si on parle du Québec, le Québec a en fait être avant-gardiste avec ce qu'ils ont proposé pour un régime d'assurance médicaments. Mais la réalité, c'est le système privé-public, ça coûte trop cher. Pour les gens, pour les Québécois et Québécoises, pour les travailleurs, ça coûte trop cher. C'est un système qui est un des plus chers à travers le monde. Donc, c'est tellement difficile pour les gens au Québec, même au Québec. Ils ont un système, mais ce système, ça coûte trop cher. Donc, on sait que les libéraux ont promis depuis 23 ans de mettre en œuvre un système d'assurance universel, mais ils ont manqué cette responsabilité. Ils ont négligé l'importance de cette geste important. Donc, on sait aussi que les conservateurs, ils ont proposé un plan pour couper le financement des soins de santé. Donc, on ne peut pas croire en eux de mettre en œuvre un programme comme ça. Et ça, c'est pourquoi on propose aujourd'hui un projet de loi qui va proposer un encadrement pour l'assurance médicaments universelle. Ça va vraiment aider du monde. Ça va aider les familles à économiser $500 par année pour famille. Aussi pour les entreprises, ça va économiser presque $600 pour chaque travailleur dans les entreprises où ils ont d'assurance médicaments comme ça. Donc, c'est quelque chose qui va vraiment aider du monde. Ça va sauver aussi pour la société 4,2 milliards de dollars. Donc, c'est quelque chose qu'on a besoin de faire. On est prêt de le faire aujourd'hui. On prend un geste concret, un premier pas pour réaliser l'assurance médicaments universelle. So, thank you so much for that. And I want to just now introduce some validators who have some powerful messages around the importance of universal pharmacare. So, beginning to my right, we have Dr. Melanie Béchard from Canadian Doctors for Medicare. And I pass the parole over to Melanie, Doctor.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for the invitation to speak here today. I'm here not only as an executive board member of Canadian Doctors for Medicare, but also as a certified pediatrician training to be a pediatric emergency medicine specialist here in Ottawa. Founded in 2006, Canadian Doctors for Medicare is a nonpartisan organization that provides a voice for doctors from coast to coast to coast, advocating for evidence-based, values-driven reforms to our public healthcare system. Canadian Doctors for Medicare is thrilled to provide enthusiastic support for the Canada Pharmacare Act. As a physician working within our current health system, I am all too familiar with how limited access to medications negatively affects patient care. Studies have shown that 1 in 10 Canadians cannot afford their medications as prescribed. In 2016, about 1 million Canadians reported spending less on essentials like food and heat in order to afford their medications. Patients who struggle to afford their medications have poorer control of their diabetes and more symptoms. It is difficult to explain to our patients that our health system will cover their medications when they're in our hospitals or in our emergency departments, but not when they're discharged home. With recurring costs of copays, deductibles, and dispensing fees, even patients with private insurance may be unable to afford their medicine. This is especially true for our sickest and most vulnerable members of society with chronic and serious conditions. When Canadians cannot afford their medicine, their health suffers. Chronic conditions may worsen and result in more serious and costly visits to the emergency department or even admission to hospital. I have seen children in the emergency department with asthma attacks because their parents had difficulty affording their inhalers. I've seen young people present in crisis because they could no longer afford access to their mental health medications. These stories are as heartbreaking as they are preventable. Fortunately, we know the solution. Removing financial barriers to essential medications increases patients' ability to take the medicines as prescribed and improve their health. This is why Canadian Doctors for Medicare advocates for universal, single-payer public pharmacare. The Canada Pharmacare Act paves a path to this better future, one where all patients and families can access the medications they need to stay healthy. It has the very strong potential to improve and save lives. I cannot do my job effectively as a physician if the patients that I see cannot take their medications. Pharmacare not only helps clinicians take better care of you and your family, but also empowers citizens to take better care of each other, a fundamentally Canadian principle and natural extension of Medicare's promise. Please join Canadian Doctors for Medicare in supporting the groundbreaking Canada Pharmacare Act. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. And thank you for being here on behalf of Canadian Doctors for Medicare. Now, je présente le Rousseau de CLC, Canadian Labour Congress. Merci d'être ici, Larry.
Thank you very much, and I'm very pleased to be here today to lend the voices of more than 3 million workers across Canada who understand what Pharmacare means to this country. Universal, comprehensive, accessible, portable, and public pharmacare, as was mentioned earlier, will change the lives especially of the 1/3 of working Canadians today who don't have employer-funded drug coverage, and the 1 in 4 households across the country who have seen family members either cut up, ration, or fail to take prescribed medication because of the costs. Tomorrow, hundreds of union activists from across the country will meet with their parliamentarians to share the expectations that they have for national universal pharmacare. Today, together, those activists are bringing stories about what these changes will mean to constituents and to their representatives. With a plan and appropriate funding, Parliament has the opportunity to make history and completely realign the way prescription medication is delivered and paid for in Canada. This bill is a first step, and we thank the NDP for introducing it in the House today. The 3 parties who promised Pharmacare won a majority vote of the vote in October 2019. These 3 parties together now hold the majority in the House of Commons, which means they now hold the power to change the lives of millions of Canadians. Working Canadians are depending on progress, and with the help of the opposition, our members are sure it can be achieved in Budget 2020. Il me fait plaisir d'être parmi vous pour exprimer la volonté de plus de 3 millions de Canadiens syndiqués qui comprennent très bien ce qu'un programme d'assurance médicaments universel veut dire pour l'ensemble du pays. Un programme d'assurance médicaments universel, compréhensif, accessible, portable et public changera la donne surtout pour plus d'1 tiers des travailleuses et travailleurs canadiens qui n'ont pas de couverture d'assurance médicaments offerte par leur employeur. Et en raison des coûts, 25% des ménages coupent leurs médicaments en 2 ou divisent leurs médicaments ou tout simplement n'en prennent pas. Demain, des centaines de militants et militantes de partout au pays rencontreront leurs parlementaires ici à Ottawa pour leur faire part des attentes qu'ils ont pour un programme national d'assurance médicaments. Solidaires, ces militants syndiqués partageront leurs expériences et quels impacts les changements proposés auront et pour les commettants et pour leurs représentants. Le Parlement du Canada, avec un plan et un financement en conséquence jouit d'une occasion importante pour changer l'histoire et réaligner complètement la façon que les médicaments d'ordonnance sont fournis et payés au Canada. Ce projet de loi est un premier pas et nous remercions le NPD de l'avoir présenté au Parlement aujourd'hui. Les trois partis ont fait la promesse d'un programme national d'assurance médicaments et ils ont gagné la confiance d'une majorité de Canadiennes et de Canadiens en octobre 2019. Et l'ensemble ont la majorité des sièges à la Chambre des communes, ce qui veut dire qu'ils ont la capacité de changer la vie de millions de Canadiennes et de Canadiens. Les travailleurs et les travailleuses au Canada s'attendent à du progrès. Et avec l'aide des partis d'opposition, nos membres peuvent en être assurés dans le budget 2020. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much, Larry. Thank you for speaking on behalf of the 3 million workers across this country. I really appreciate that. Now we have Melanie Bernard from the Canadian Health Coalition. Thank you so much for being here, Melanie, and please, it's your opportunity to share some remarks.
Bon matin, good morning. Thanks for this opportunity to speak with you today on behalf of the Canadian Health Coalition. We are a national organization founded 40 years ago to protect and expand public health care in Canada. We're made up of unions, healthcare workers, community organizations, faith-based organizations, seniors and academics, as well as affiliated coalitions in the provinces and territories. We've been advocating for Pharmacare for decades. As we heard, Canada is the only country in the world with a universal public health care system that doesn't cover prescription medication. As a result, millions of Canadians are falling through the cracks. 1 in 4 households in Canada can't afford their medications. 1 million Canadians are having to choose between putting food on the table and buying the medications they need. In a country as wealthy as Canada, this is simply unacceptable. We've heard that when people skip their medication because they can't afford it, they end up getting sicker. They visit the doctor and the hospital more often, taking up limited resources in our healthcare system. Sometimes they even die preventable deaths. The current patchwork of drug coverage in Canada is inadequate and inefficient. There are currently over 100,000 different private and public drug plans across the country that offer different types of drug coverage. Many plans limit the amount that people can claim per month or per year, and people often have to pay expensive deductibles and co-payments that can make medication unaffordable. So having a drug plan doesn't actually mean that you're adequately covered. The current system is also unsustainable. Canada pays the 3rd highest prices in the world for prescription medications, and spending on medication continues to rise. We currently spend more on medication than we do on doctors. Universal Pharmacare would allow us to limit this spending by negotiating lower drug prices through bulk purchasing. Now, some people say we can't afford Universal Pharmacare, that it's too expensive. The reality is that we can't afford not to adopt Pharmacare. This essential new program would allow us to save billions of dollars every year. The evidence is clear. Pharmacare would be good for people's health, good for the healthcare system, and good for the economy. Simply put, universal public pharmacare would save money and save lives. That's why we're pleased to see the NDP taking action on this important issue. We need this government to take steps immediately to implement this new program. Only universal public single-payer pharmacare would ensure that everyone in Canada can access the medications they need. Last year, the Advisory Council on National Pharmacare published a report that provides a roadmap on how to implement this new program. So we know what we need to do and how to do it. Today's Pharmacare bill is an important first step in this process. But we also need the government to make the necessary financial commitments for Pharmacare in this year's federal budget. Earlier this month, we joined 150 national and provincial organizations from across the country calling on the federal finance minister to provide the necessary funding for Pharmacare in this year's budget, and we intend to hold the government to account. As we heard, the majority of Canadians voted for Pharmacare in the last election. Canadians want this new program. They need it, and they deserve it, and we look forward to working together to make it happen. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you so much, Melanie. Again, really appreciate all the work that the Canadian Health coalition has done on this file and for health in general. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the speakers, and I now pass the mic back to the moderator.
Thank you. So we'll now start the question period. As usual, one question, one follow-up. We'll start with Madeleine Blais-Morin, Radio-Canada.
Bonjour, M. Singh.
Bonjour.
Le budget s'en vient. Est-ce que vous allez avoir une condition pour votre appui dans le budget en fonction de ce qui va se passer sur l'assurance médicaments?
L'assurance médicaments universelle, c'est une priorité. Donc, on veut avoir l'appui du gouvernement. Si le gouvernement veut faire ce qu'ils ont promis de faire, on est prêt de travailler ensemble. Donc, c'est vraiment une question pour le gouvernement libéral. Est-ce qu'ils veulent vraiment faire ce qu'ils ont promis de faire? Est-ce qu'ils sont prêts d'aller de l'avant avec pas seulement des belles paroles, mais avec des actions concrètes? On est ici pour le faire. Dans le budget, on veut voir des engagements concrets pour financer une assurance médicaments universelle. Ça, c'est quelque chose qu'on veut voir et on est prêt de travailler ensemble pour réaliser l'assurance médicaments universelle.
Ma question de relance, ce serait sinon quoi? Est-ce que vous allez voter contre? Et j'aurai une question plus tard sur les barricades. Est-ce que vous allez avoir le temps de les prendre plus tard, pendant la conférence de presse?
Oui.
Okay. Alors, sinon quoi, est-ce que vous allez voter contre le budget?
Donc, comme on a dit avec le discours de Trump, on est prêt de voter contre un budget qui n'est pas un budget ou qui n'est pas un discours de Trump. Dans ce cas, on a voté contre le discours de Trump. On est prêt de voter contre le budget si le budget n'aide pas les gens, si le budget n'est pas dans l'avantage des gens. Et un élément important pour nous, c'est de voir un engagement de financer, pas seulement de donner des belles paroles, pas seulement de donner des discours, mais on veut voir un engagement concret pour financer l'assurance médicaments universelle. Ça, c'est quelque chose d'important, c'est une priorité. Ça, c'est pourquoi le premier projet de loi qu'on a proposé dans ce Parlement, c'est le projet de loi pour encadrer l'assurance médicaments universelle. Donc, c'est une priorité pour nous.
Tessie de Lobby Monitor.
Good morning. Mr. Singh, how does your party plan on building support for such a bill? I'm just running through the political parties with the most seats in the House, and I can't anticipate them voting for this bill. So how does your party plan on building support?
Well, we've got some incredible validators today, people who speak on behalf of working people who speak on behalf of healthcare practitioners. We have Canada Health Coalition. These are folks that are telling stories from the grassroots, from the ground, people who have met with families who couldn't afford a puffer, and it meant that their child ended up in an emergency room because the child could not breathe. I've met seniors who are cutting their pills in half, people that are gambling with their lives because they tell me they know they need to take this medication, but they can't afford it, and so they go to work knowing that, in one case, there was a construction worker who knows he's got a health condition that requires medication that he just can't afford. It's too difficult given all the costs in the family, and he's got children that need health care, that need medication, so he chooses to pay for their medication and not his own. These choices do not have to happen. This proposal is so achievable. We could bring in place a universal Medicare medication coverage plan. It can work, and we're laying out a framework for it. The Liberal government talked about this. Prime Minister Trudeau promised it. He promised universal Pharmacare. Well, now here's a chance to make it happen. I'm going to put pressure on the government to say it's not enough to just talk about it. Pretty words are not good enough. People urgently need Pharmacare. The Liberals have promised this for 23 years. They failed to bring it forward. We're now taking a concrete step to show this is how it's done. The Hoskins report was commissioned by the very same Liberal government. We're providing a path to achieving the first step, which is this legislation, and now we need the government to back it up.
Before I move on to my follow-up, just quick clarification. Universal for you means single payer, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's based on the Canada Health Act. So what we're proposing in the Canada Pharmacare Act is mirroring the same principles of the Canada Health Act, which includes a number of principles, but that includes universality, public administration, so it has to be delivered publicly, single payer, comprehensive. It covers all the needs of Canadians, accessible, portable. It can be moved from province to province. And so that's what we're proposing, something based on the Canada Health Act. That's what our bill that we're proposing today will lay out. The drug agency, the framework, the values and principles, all that we need to take the next steps in achieving this.
My actual follow-up is you mentioned the drug agency. What does the drug agency under this NDP bill look like to you? Can you give us some details?
Yeah, well, so the benefit of, it's sad that we're the last country in the world to do this, but the benefit is we've seen what other countries have done. And so what we're proposing is a drug agency that would be based on evidence, value for money, and assessing what medication is needed and has the best evidence of actually working for Canadians, as comprehensive and broad a formulary as possible. This agency would be something we've left the door open for negotiation with the provinces to lay out the details, but it would include evidence-based analysis of what medication should be included, a broad formulary as possible. Provinces would have a seat at the table, and it would be a drug agency that would use the buying power of Canada to negotiate prices. One of the other big concerns is we see drug prices increasing, drug plans are getting more and more expensive, even private insurance is not covering as much medication year over year. So with a national drug agency able to negotiate prices, we can keep those prices down, have more affordability. It's going to save provinces, it's going to save the national government, it's going to save Canadians significantly. It's so achievable. It's frankly unexplainable why we haven't done it to this point, beyond the fact that Liberals have just promised and broken those promises. Here's our chance to get it done, and we're proposing a path forward.
Back to Radio-Canada.
Oui, à propos des barricades, est-ce que vous craignez en ce moment l'impact de l'intervention policière?
Ce que j'ai dit, j'ai des inquiétudes parce que on sait que les actions des policiers, ce ne sont pas les solutions. Le Premier ministre a eu une occasion de rencontrer les chefs héréditaires et il n'a pas pris cette chance de les rencontrer. Ils ont demandé de rencontrer le Premier ministre. M. Trudeau a en fait rejeté cette demande. Donc maintenant, on voit une situation avec des tensions qui montent. Et la solution, ce n'est pas d'avoir les interventions policières. La solution, c'est d'avoir des dialogues. Et en fait, premièrement, c'est pour le Premier ministre de rencontrer les chefs héréditaires. Pour moi, c'est complètement inacceptable que le Premier ministre n'a pas fait ça. Et encore, j'exige le gouvernement libéral et fédéral de prendre ce geste important et quelque chose qui peut éviter une crise avec des tensions qui montent.
Monsieur le Premier ministre a quand même comme un peu abandonné cette voie du dialogue vendredi en disant si les Autochtones sont prêts à venir à la table, je serai là, mais sinon, arrangez-vous entre Premières Nations pour essayer de calmer la tension un peu. Donc, avez-vous l'impression qu'il est encore possible de changer de direction une autre fois ou?
Je pense que le Premier ministre a complètement manqué, n'a pas montré la leadership. Premièrement, quand on avait posé la question, il a dit que ce n'est pas une affaire qui me touche, ce n'est pas un enjeu fédéral, c'est que seulement un enjeu provincial. Deuxième semaine, elle a changé l'histoire, elle a dit non, oui, on a une responsabilité fédérale et elle a exigé la patience. Et maintenant, il prend exactement les mêmes paroles que M. Scheer. Il dit que avant, ce n'était pas ma responsabilité. Oui, c'était ma responsabilité. Attendez, la patience est importante. Et puis, il dit que on va suivre la suggestion de M. Scheer. Elle a complètement manqué le leadership dans ce cas. Ce qu'elle aurait dû faire, c'est de rencontrer les chefs héréditaires. Ils ont demandé la rencontre. Elle peut le faire. Mais je ne peux pas expliquer pourquoi il n'a pas pris cette occasion de le faire. Je l'exige encore de rencontrer les chefs, d'essayer de réduire les tensions. C'est important, c'est une crise nationale et le Premier ministre a un rôle à jouer. Elle a complètement manqué ce rôle.
We'll go to CBC and then see if we have... Yeah, David.
Good morning, Mr. Singh. Just before I get to my questions, can you just repeat that in English? Do you have any concerns about the way the police are carrying out the injunction on Mohawk territory today?
Yeah, I've been really concerned about the idea that police intervention will de-escalate this national crisis, because it won't. It's not the solution. I'm deeply worried about that, and I'm particularly concerned because the Prime Minister has had multiple opportunities where he could have intervened in a meaningful way. One of the most concrete was that over a month ago, the hereditary chief specifically asked for in the principle of nation-to-nation relations, asked to speak with the Prime Minister, and he has ignored that request. As recently as last week, they renewed that request to meet with the Prime Minister, and again, the Prime Minister has failed. His position on this has changed a lot. At one point he said, this is not my concern, it's not my issue, when I asked the question of him meeting the hereditary chiefs nearly a month ago. After that, when asked the question, he said, no, it is a federal responsibility that we have, let's be patient, and now he's following Andrew Scheer's playbook. That, to me, does not show leadership, and in fact, it shows a failure of leadership. What we need to do is de-escalate, and to do that, one of the first steps is to meet with the hereditary chiefs, which he's failed to do.
Teck Frontier, Teck Resources withdrew its application for its mine in northern Alberta. Where did you stand on that? You said that it needed to meet certain criteria. You've had time to think about it. Where did you stand on the approval of the mine?
Well, I said from the beginning that there was some really serious concerns around the emissions, and I didn't see how it would fit within our emissions targets as a country. The CEO has put out very clearly that there was a very difficult business case, and it didn't seem like it was ever going to go ahead in terms of a business case. But really what this shows is, again, a failure in leadership at the federal Liberal level, federal government level, where Prime Minister Trudeau needs to map out a course of action where we create jobs as well as reduce our emissions. And there are incredible opportunities that we have. If we want to fight the climate crisis while creating jobs, we can invest in public infrastructure, public transit. We can invest in green technology, clean technology. We can make decisions to retrofit homes and public buildings that create jobs. There's massive opportunity to create jobs, but again, this has been a failure of laying out a plan on the part of Prime Minister Trudeau to say, well, what is a plan to create jobs while we reduce emissions? And the Prime Minister hasn't done that.
En français là-dessus, s'il vous plaît, quelles sont vos réactions au retrait du projet de la part de la compagnie?
Oui, donc ce qu'on a vu depuis longtemps, c'est il n'y a pas un plan, il y avait un manque de plan économique pour ce projet d'aller de l'avant. Aussi, il y a un grand problème des émissions. J'ai dit en avant que je ne peux pas comprendre comment ce projet peut être dans notre cible pour réduire les émissions de gaz à effet de serre. Donc, ce projet a eu des problèmes. Mais ce que cette situation montre, c'est vraiment un manque de leadership à part de Premier ministre Trudeau, parce que si on veut faire face à la crise climatique, on a aussi une grande occasion de créer des emplois de qualité. On peut investir dans l'infrastructure publique, créer plus de transports en commun, et ça peut donner une occasion de créer des emplois. La rénovation énergétique dans les bâtiments publics et pour les maisons aussi, c'est une occasion de créer des emplois. Donc, dans cette crise climatique, on a une chance de créer des emplois et en même temps réduire les émissions. Et M. Trudeau n'a pas montré un plan pour le faire.
Sur l'aide médicale à mourir, on attend un projet de loi cet après-midi. Qu'est-ce que vous voudriez voir dans ce projet de loi-là?
Je veux voir que le projet de loi suive ce que le Cour de justice au Québec a suggéré. Le problème avec la loi à ce moment, c'est un manque le critère est trop limité. Donc, je veux voir que les critères sont moins limités, qu'on a vraiment accès à ce droit, à ce choix difficile. Et je veux voir exactement ça, que les critères qui sont trop limités soient moins limités et l'accès à cette décision est plus ouvert.
Mais à quel point, parce que là, le jugement parlait de la mort raisonnablement prévisible, que ça, c'était pas constitutionnel. Est-ce que vous voudriez voir l'aide médicale à mourir aux mineurs matures, par exemple, aux personnes souffrant de maladies mentales? Est-ce que ça irait jusque-là ou on enlèverait seulement pour vous le critère de mort raisonnablement prévisible?
Donc, je pense qu'il y a un commencement. Je n'ai pas vu le projet de loi proposé, mais ce que je veux voir minimum, c'est d'ouvrir les critères. Les critères sont trop limités, donc ça, c'est un premier pas.
David?
So just coming back to Teck, Are you for or are you against the project?
Well, I think the project has been removed or has been pulled away for many reasons, and what I've said on the project, two things. One is there was never really a business case for it, and the environmental case, I didn't see a proposal that met the criteria for reducing emissions and making sure that the environment was protected. And so based on those reasons, I didn't see how it could be a plan that would be able to move ahead. I think there was extreme environmental problems with it, and I think there's a strong economic problem with it.
So it would be incorrect to say that you were against the project?
It would be fair to say that I don't see how it would fit within our environmental goals of reducing emissions, and I don't see how there was an economic case for it.
Donc, êtes-vous content qu'il ait retiré le projet?
Je pense que c'était une décision qui n'était pas un surpris. Je pense qu'ils n'ont jamais eu un plan économique d'aller de l'avant. Et moi, j'ai vu toujours un problème avec ce projet en matière d'environnement, avec les cibles qu'on veut atteindre comme pays. Je pense que c'est toujours difficile pour ce projet d'être dans nos cibles.
Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to jump back to Pharmacare. And my question is mainly for the other participants.
Yes.
So it sounds like there is an organized lobby day going on tomorrow with the CLC. First question would be, are the other two health care organizations involved at all? No. Okay, so it's just CLC. Two, sir, can you give us an idea of how many people are expected on the Hill and some of the big policy players you expect to speak to?
Thank you for the question. So this is going to be our fourth lobby day where we have approached parliamentarians with issues that are of importance to working Canadians across the country, not just unionized workers, but all workers. And this time we are going to have over 400 union activists from across the country. These are people who are in workplaces, who have signed up. Most of them will be meeting with their own MPs here on the Hill. That is the priority. When they come in, we will match them up with their own MPs. They also are in contact with their MPs at home, and they will also be meeting with other parliamentarians, whether it's ministers and other members of parliament, to make one thing very, very clear, that our top issue, our top priority for this year at Lobby Day is Pharmacare. We want to make sure that all parliamentarians understand that now is the time to move forward with this very, very important message, because we raised the flag a few years ago. We've been at this for a couple of years with partners, and we're very happy with the work that's been done. We've had town halls across the country. 80 to 90% of Canadians want this. Our own polling and polling that we have done shows it is time, because it is unsustainable. 20 years ago on the bargaining table, medical plans were the last thing that we were talking about. It would take 15 minutes. What do you want? Add this medication, take off this one, etc. But today, the first thing that is put on the bargaining table across the board, especially in the private sector, is the drug plan. And so we know that this is unsustainable. We know that this is going to mean more pockets out of workers, more money out of workers' pockets, and we said this is not sustainable. So that's why we're doing this, and we're very excited that we have 400 people coming tomorrow to speak to parliamentarians about it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Sure. We'll give you the mic if you don't mind.
Je lis une déclaration de M. Scheer qui semble faire un lien direct entre les barricades et l'abandon du projet Teck. Est-ce que vous en faites un lien, vous?
Non, en fait, je pense que la raison était claire dans la déclaration de la PDG de Teck, dans la lettre qu'elle a montrée, que il y a des gens qui militent contre l'importance de faire face à la crise climatique. Et c'est clair à ce moment qu'on a besoin d'un plan clair. On a besoin d'un plan où on crée des emplois et réduit les émissions. Je pense que au Canada, M. Trudeau a vraiment manqué l'occasion de montrer cette leadership, de montrer une vision claire avec un plan pour atteindre les cibles. Et c'est vraiment une question d'avoir un plan pour réduire les émissions et d'aller de l'avant avec une économie durable, avec une économie prévisible pour les entreprises. Et je pense que ça, c'est vraiment la raison. Dans le cas de Teck, ils n'ont jamais eu un plan économique pour aller de l'avant. Et aussi, ils ont eu toujours des problèmes de l'environnement avec les émissions. Donc, c'est toujours le problème que j'ai vu. Et avec la question de l'avenir, c'est maintenant l'occasion pour le Premier ministre de ne pas seulement donner des belles paroles, mais de livrer un plan d'action, un plan de match. C'est quoi le plan pour l'économie? Un plan qui est prévisible pour les entreprises, qui montre comment on peut réduire les émissions et comment on peut créer des emplois.
Thank you very much.
Merci, thank you. Merci tout le monde. Thank you to amazing, I want to call you panelists, amazing folks, Dr. Larry, Melanie, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Merci.